We often get asked what benefits a business can expect when they replace their ERP and what figures they should use in their business case. The temptation for many businesses is to do a quick search on the internet for ERP ROI, and up will pop dozens of websites claiming to provide you with a magic set of numbers. For example, Company X saw profits grow by 3 times when they implemented Y ERP. The trouble with these claims is twofold. Firstly, they're unprovable, and secondly, they're completely meaningless. The equation might be common to many businesses, but the variables will be totally unique to each organisation. Comparing the business results of one organisation against another is as meaningless as comparing chocolate to broccoli. In this programme, we'll be taking a look at what goes into developing a robust business case that's likely to stand up to the scrutiny of the executives. I'm Stuart Robb, Vice President of Third Stage Consulting. Third Stage is the world's leading independent advisors for technology-enabled business transformation and business system software. Every business is very unique. Savings and revenue enhancements come from many places. Not only modules in an ERP tool, but mostly from changes to ways of working, changes to business processes, changes in headcount, and other changes that happen simultaneously during your ERP implementation. Many business cases I've seen are founded on unprovable assumptions and growth predictions that simply don't hold water. Many of these business cases, when put up to the board, end up in the bin and the project is cancelled before it even starts. And those that get going on a shaky business case tend to be equally shaky throughout the delivery and implementation process as well. Developing a solid business case is something of an art form. I like to compare it to the process of creating a pitch for the TV programme Dragon's Den, or Shark Tank if you prefer in the US. So where do you start if you're trying to calculate the ROI and present a business case that will stand up to the scrutiny? Well, the first place I like to start is to consider why the ERP is being replaced and what benefits can be distilled from it. There are 3 common reasons why organisations want to go to the risk and expense of undertaking an ERP implementation. The first is through growth in business volumes, the second through technological obsolescence, which can include risk and compliance issues, and the third is cost reduction through automation and improvements in operational efficiency. These happen also to be the easiest factors to base a business case on. The first dimension, and often the most common, is because the ERP you have simply won't scale to meet the needs of your growing business. This could be because you need features the ERP simply doesn't support, like company hierarchies or multi-book accounting, or it could be because the volume of work coming through is increasing and your current ERP lacks the automation capabilities to be able to avoid increasing headcount for manual processes. In this case, a business case merely has to consider the costs avoided for any additional headcount, plus any efficiency improvements to the existing processes. An ERP is a long-term investment, typically lasting anywhere between 10 and 15 years. Therefore, the cost of the headcount can be projected far into the future when considering the ROI. Most business cases will be calculated using a discounted cash flow and weighted cost of capital, also known as WACC or WACC. Therefore, it might take some finessing to find the sweet spot to determine the ROI, or more accurately referred to in finance as ROIC, which is return on invested capital. A business case built on technological obsolescence is most likely to concentrate on risk. In essence, if your legacy ERP is so old that it's gone out of support, then there's a danger that it might stop working altogether. This could be either because it will no longer run a supported version of the operating system or database software, or because the use of the ERP has somehow changed. For example, a patch has been applied or a previously unused module has been enabled, which breaks the whole package. If the vendor is no longer supporting it, then you're going to be on your own trying to fix it. This risk grows the longer the ERP has been out of support. That said, while support for ERP versions may be patchy, it's actually relatively uncommon for ERP vendors to retire old versions completely, unless of course they're trying to force you onto their whizzy new package. This is the case with SAP S/4HANA, but even there SAP has to some extent conceded defeat, and it's now 2025 before they propose to discontinue support for their previous version ECC6. In fact, there's a strong possibility this will be extended again to 2030 according to the rumour factory. Another reason for technological obsolescence is that a new regulatory framework or required might be brought in that the ERP can't support at the version you're running. A new set of IRF rules or significant changes to GAAP, or a new tax, such as the digital tax, can all render your old legacy ERP obsolete. The third dimension on which an ERP business case can be founded is through the area of cost reduction through improvements in operational efficiencies. And there are many examples where a modern ERP can help. To illustrate cost reduction opportunities, we're going to look at a typical finance function as an example. One area is in the reduction in waste, such as reprocessing manual errors, for example. This is particularly common where the finance team are heavily reliant on spreadsheets. Error reduction leads to improved productivity and ultimately can save on labour costs. Commonly, these improvements are as the result of process improvements and data cleansing. The second area of improvement in finance is with accounts receivable, and in particular days sales outstanding or DSO. AR comes high on the list because it helps with banking covenants and low cash points. For example, a 3-day reduction on DSO in one client cost $70,000 a year for the tool, but contributed $700,000 directly onto the bottom line and the net cash position. The benefits of this metric would ordinarily depend on how big your open AR is and how much of that is over payment terms. But the question is, do you need a new ERP to do this? An ERP system will provide standard capabilities in AR workflow, automation and reporting. But there are tools on the market that specialise in AR automation, such as HighRadius, Remilia, Carivo and YayPay, all of which could have a big impact on your AR without replacing your current ERP. This is worth remembering as an ERP investment can be very significant, whereas selecting tools with best-in-class capabilities can be cheaper, more timely and less onerous to get the same results. A third area of improvement is within the accounts payable. These are usually labour savings by use of automation such as three-way matching, paying supplier invoices and vendor portals automatically, and giving vendor self-service. Again, it doesn't necessarily follow that your organisation needs a completely new ERP to get these benefits. As with AR, there are plenty of tools like Proactis, Ariba and Coupa, which can also provide enhanced AP functions, in fact probably better than most mainstream products. In order to be able to measure these savings though, and all the savings to come, very good metrics are needed to know what colleagues are spending their time on now. It's frequently surprising that companies buy thousands or even millions of man-hours per year from their employees and yet have quite little insight what those employees do from one day's end to the next. If you're going to build a business case based on productivity improvements and/or headcount savings, it's absolutely essential that the managers know what their people are up to with a reasonable level of accuracy. The next improvement can come in the area of revenue recognition. The ability to automate revenue recognition for different products and service lines again often leads to improvements in operational efficiency and therefore a reduced need for headcount. It's interesting that whilst many ERP packages do have some measure of revenue recognition capability, some are better than others, and the same is true for reconciliations. Indeed, Much finance time can be wasted reconciling payments to customer and supplier invoices. Again, like RevReg, having a reconciliation engine to automate much of this saves finance time, improves operational efficiency, and therefore reduces labour costs. Tools like Blackline frequently provide enhanced capabilities over enterprise ERP software. As well as these obvious benefits, there are others, such as automation of 1099 processing for our US viewers, automation and speed improvements for the period end close, and immediacy of management information through dashboards. These are all generally considered to be intangible benefits, but can still make a considerable difference to business operations. So, to get back to the original point, as you can see, it's almost impossible to pick a number or a percentage improvement out of the air because there are so many variables and data points as to make any number virtually meaningless in your business case. We often criticise software vendors for doing precisely that without knowing our specific business. For example, if you're reducing labour costs, do you need to take into account the cost of severance? And if so, what's the average tenure per employee and the average fully loaded cost, including salary, health, office space, and 401ks, again for our American colleagues. These can be massively different between, for example, a store-based retailer and an investment bank, and will make a huge difference to any ROI. The more complex justifications are those linked to revenue or to sales, as these are even more dependent on the nature of the individual business. For example, you might choose to dovetail simplifying the price book or discounting structure whilst implementing the ERP, which will have a positive P&L impact, but isn't really directed to the value provided by the tool. However, it's still a component of the program and needs justification in your project. If I were the CEO, I'd be asking the question, can't we simplify our price book in our existing ERP? So it's important to be clear on what are the project benefits and what are the benefits of the technology and the tool. Providing any metric that predicts growth in sales or revenue is a very difficult metric to use in a business case. The simple reason is that if you're trying to justify CRM or ERP benefits through revenue enhancement, it can be easy to make a claim, but almost impossible to prove unless you have a really good handle on your overall numbers and the overall marketplace. The implementation of an ERP tool might help in reporting sales and revenue more accurately, but sales and revenue are frequently the result of hundreds of variables, of which the ERP is only a small component. For example, if you see a 5% rise in sales, is this because the ERP and CRM tool has created those benefits directly, or is this just as a result of organic growth? Did any new product launches or marketing campaigns happen during a sample period? Have you got any metrics that you can use to directly compare the target CRM and ERP group against a control group? Furthermore, sales and revenue are highly individualized metrics that are specific to each business. A business selling asset portfolios is going to have a very different set of metrics to a business selling groceries or to a consulting firm selling billable time. So internet-based statistics for sales revenues or margin improvements might be very accurate for the individual business in the study, but are extremely unlikely to map to the individual circumstances in your business. As you can see, if you're trying to demonstrate revenue growth or margin improvements due to increases in revenue, you're quickly going to be in a world of pain. In fact, I know a number of businesses who, as a result of doing their business transformation program, saw a significant increase in revenue, but were surprised when they started to see a decline in margin because they had to hold increased inventory, they had an increasing DSO, they had increasing warehouse and logistics and back office costs. ERPs can be a facilitator to drive margin improvements. Just-in-time supply chain, inventory holding and stock turn, warehouse costs, network distribution costs can all be managed through an ERP. But the improvements are going to be vastly different for every customer. A US-based countrywide firm with 50 warehouses, 4 manufacturing plants and a direct transport fleet will see vastly different metrics to an organisation that buys finished product and ships direct to consumer via a 3PL or Amazon. Whilst ERP solutions can help, without changes to other parts of the business operating model, the benefits realisation will be minuscule. Also, as before, there are specialist providers which may not necessarily make replacing an ERP the first point of call. A further example of this is in the cost of warehousing and transformation, or in ERP terms, WMS and TMS. There are a number of products that allow your business to do extensive modelling and what-if scenarios around the positioning of warehouses or distribution hubs and transport costs, which infinitely exceed the capabilities of any ERP package. LlamaSoft and AnyLogics are two such examples. So an ERP is a jack-of-all-trades solution to support many business operations. It will do most jobs averagely well, but ERP implementations come at high cost and significant risk. When developing your business case, it's always worth being on the lookout for any options that might allow you to achieve the same or better results with substantially lower risk. Now, this might bring you into conflict with your enterprise technical and business architecture strategy. Some organisations will want the simplicity of having a single enterprise application supporting most functions in the business, with all the complexities of integration taken care of by the software vendor. Others will be happy to support best-in-class solutions through a more loosely coupled architecture via an enterprise service bus, or as it's more commonly known, a service-orientated architecture. So your business case and the solution underpinning it may end up being driven by the enterprise architecture rather than through the software you believe provides the optimal capabilities and costs. And again, this will all have an impact on your business case. These compromises are typical when working up the solution and identifying the funding required to support it. So, to return to the original question, can using benchmarks off the internet help to justify an ERP business case for an organisation? Well, my simple answer is I don't think they can, no. Any averages you put into a business case are unlikely to stand 5 seconds of scrutiny by a switched on board. Indeed, it's similar to asking what the average cost of an ERP project is. If you include sole traders using QuickBooks and multinational enterprises using SAP in 20 countries, the average cost would be 64,000 apples, i.e. totally meaningless. There are some ROI calculators available on the internet, and consulting firms such as ours have developed our own to determine ROI. Most of them use a form of the equation or formula I described at the beginning of the program and allow you to plug in your variables and arrive at a magic answer. However, they vary wildly in their sophistication. Some don't apply NPP or cater for weighted average cost of capital. And anyway, using these tools is what I call a front door approach to developing a business case. When I put together business cases, I try to look at the initiative from top down and consider all the overall benefit to the business, not just the ERP component. If we go back to our finance example, the APQC has useful benchmarks for the cost of a finance function as a percentage of revenue, which can very much help in the development of a business case. So let's say that the average cost of finance as a percentage of total revenue for your industry sector and for your peer organisations is 2%. The cost of finance for your organisation is $20 million a year, which is 4% of global turnover. That means that these peer organisations are twice as efficient as you, and that's money that you should be putting towards EBITDA. If we use automation improvements in efficiency and ways of working, use the ERP as the nexus to drive change, we should be able to significantly improve efficiency and effectiveness, driving finance costs down. However, this is not going to happen purely as a result of shoving in a piece of software. That's going to save us no money whatsoever. It'll just cost you money, and all you will achieve is to migrate inefficiencies, broken processes, and poor data from one software tool to another. What's really needed is a holistic business transformation of the whole operating model, that is, of people, process, technology, data and information that will change ways of working and drive out efficiencies and improvements. And it's the people change that is most significant. By examining each key driver, I can distill where improvements in risk, cost and efficiency could come from, and if I'm still struggling for a decent ROIC, only then do I look at revenue. If we use the APQC benchmark, we ought to be able to identify a reduction in annualised costs by, say, $10 million. This will bring your service costs to around the 2% mark, equivalent to your competitors, and if they can do it, logic dictates that you ought to be able to achieve that same benchmark too. I can find it quite hard to win over a sceptical board with a front door business case, particularly if some board members have prior experience of ERP projects. My personal experience is that using a peer benchmarking approach seems to have a higher success rate and has been the winning pitch at several clients when presenting an ERP project to the board. So if you'd like to discuss anything about what you've heard in this video, or indeed anything else on ERP or business transformation, don't hesitate to reach out to us at thirdstage-consulting.com and subscribe to our channel. So until the next time then, goodbye.